In this video, we're going to talk about clauses. Before we talk about the two types of clauses that we're going to cover today, which is dependent and independent, first thing I'd like to discuss is what a clause is. A clause is just a group of words that contain a subject and a predicate, which takes us to, there are two types of clauses. There's dependent and independent. The first clause I'd like to discuss is independent clause. An independent clause is basically a complete sentence. So does everything it needs to be a complete sentence. So if we take a look at this example here, if I'm late for school again, I will get a detention. Let's pretend that we have a sentence here and a sentence here. So if we pull those sentences out, even though it's one sentence, let's pretend that there's two. If we pull that out, we have, if I'm late for school again, I will get a detention. Notice how, of those two sentences, this one here could be on its own, and it would be complete. So since this sentence could stand on its own and is complete, this would be an independent clause. So just like the name says, independent means it can be independent. It doesn't need any help from anything around it. That takes us to dependent clause. So this is just the opposite. A dependent clause is not a complete sentence. And notice how we've been talking about in class how a complete sentence needs a subject and a predicate. Notice how this dependent clause actually has a subject and a predicate, but it's still not complete. And we're going to discuss why in just a second. If I look at this same example and we break these two sentences down into, or this one sentence down into two sentences, notice how if I am late for school again is not a complete sentence. So this is our dependent clause. It depends on the other part of the sentence to be complete. So if we look at this sentence closely, there is one word in this sentence that makes it depend on the other sentence. The one word in the sentence that makes it depend on the other sentence is this if. Notice if we were to get rid of if, and I just say, I am late for school again, that would be a complete sentence. I would turn that sentence into a independent clause. If is what we call a subordinate conjunction. And a subordinate conjunction is, there's all kinds of subordinate conjunctions. Notice all these examples here. These words, if they are included in a sentence, they will make that sentence a dependent clause. In other words, they'll make that part of the sentence depend on a different part of the sentence. So that takes us to, let's just take a look at this PowerPoint real quick. We're going to practice just by looking at a few different slides. I say because I was late is a dependent clause because it would depend on a different part of the sentence. Notice how it's not complete, and the only thing that makes it not complete is this because is a subordinate conjunction. I carry my umbrella. This would be a complete sentence. This is an independent clause because it's a complete sentence. If it stops raining, again, this is a dependent clause because it's not a complete sentence. That one word that makes it incomplete would be if. I like to play wait. That is a complete sentence. So that's an independent clause. If we take a look at an entire sentence, and if we say when Andrew got home, he made a chicken quesadilla, notice how when Andrew got home, if I just pull that out, and most time these are separated by a comma, these two clauses, so it makes it easy. But if I was to pull this out, this would be a dependent clause. It depends on he made a chicken quesadilla. When is what makes that portion of the sentence a dependent clause. And it's time for a test, whether you're ready or not. This one is an exception. It's not separated by a comma. Whether you're ready or not is the dependent clause. So this shows that a dependent clause doesn't always come at the beginning of a sentence. It can be anywhere in a sentence. If you wait until school, I can go to the store with you. Again, we have this if here. That makes this portion, this first portion, a dependent clause. If you wait until after school, it's dependent on the rest of the sentence. So why do we use dependent clauses? If we can make a sentence with an independent clause and it can stand on its own, what good is a dependent clause? Well, they do make sentences more interesting. So if I take a look at this example again, if I'm late for school one more time, I'll get a detention. Notice how that gives us a lot more information than just saying, I will get a detention. So our goal, eventually, when we get writing, is to look at the independent clauses and see if we can make them more interesting by adding a dependent clause. In order to do that, we always take a subordinate conjunction from that list, and then we add a subject and a predicate, and you get a dependent clause. So if I have a sentence that looks like this, you walk around the chairs, all I need to do is figure out why would someone walk around the chairs or when would someone walk around the chairs. And once I figure that out, while the music is playing, you walk around the chairs. Notice how I'm using this subordinate clause to make it. You failed the test. Again, I ask myself, why would someone fail the test or when would they fail the test? And I can put something like even though, which would be our subordinate conjunction, you studied hard. We will shake hands with the other team. Why would someone do that? When would someone do that? After I figure that out, I add a subordinate clause. Maybe I put something like after the game ends, we shake hands with the team. So these types of scenarios, of course, are several correct answers for these types of scenarios as long as it makes sense in a sentence.